Okay, so like imagine this. You're sitting down at your computer, but instead of reaching for the mouse, you just tell it what you want.
Oh.
You know, like book me a flight to Hawaii, find the cheapest one, and put it on my calendar.
Oh, wow.
That's exactly what Anthropic says their new AI, Claude, can do. And that's what we're diving into today.
Okay, yeah.
We found this really interesting article from Futurism about it, and it sounds, honestly, kind of wild. So get this, Claude, it's not just a chatbot, you know, like all those ChatGPT things you've seen.
Right.
It's something called an AI agent. And it can actually use your computer, like with the mouse and keyboard, like a human would.
It's definitely a big step beyond what we usually think of with chatbots. It's like it can really understand what you want,
right,
and then actually do it. In the digital world, I mean,
yeah,
like it really blurs the line between what we think of as like human tasks and what, you know, AI can do.
Yeah, and that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating. But before we get too far, can you break down exactly what Claude is? The article mentions something called Claude 3.5 Sonnet. I'm not really sure what that means.
Good point. Yeah, it's easy to get lost in all the jargon. So Claude is an AI model developed by Anthropic.
Okay.
Which is like a competitor to OpenAI,
right,
you know, the company behind ChatGPT.
Right.
And 3.5 Sonnet, that's just their latest version, like an upgrade.
Gotcha. Okay.
What sets it apart is that it goes way beyond just generating text like a chatbot.
Yeah.
It can actually interact with your computer like using peripherals. You know, the mouse and keyboard,
okay,
that sort of thing.
So it's not just talking the talk, it's walking the walk, digitally speaking.
Right.
But what does that actually look like in practice? Like what kinds of things can Claude actually do?
Well, the article gives some really impressive examples. Remember that trip to the Golden Gate Bridge?
Yeah.
The one we were talking about, you know, see the sunrise?
Oh, yeah.
So theoretically, you could ask Claude to plan the whole thing. Like it could search for the best spots to see it, you know, check the weather, and even put it on your calendar.
Wow.
All without you having to do anything.
That's amazing. But wait, isn't there another AI company working on something similar? I vaguely remember reading about one for like coding.
You're probably thinking of Cognition AI.
Oh?
And their AI agent, Devin. It's made specifically for programming tasks and can generate code, like in lots of different languages.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, Anthropic isn't the only one working on this.
Right.
But Claude, it's designed to be a more general purpose AI.
Right.
And that makes it really interesting.
So it sounds like AI agents are like the next big thing. But the article also mentions that Claude isn't perfect, right? I mean, coding is complex, right, even for humans.
Exactly.
I can only imagine the kind of errors an AI could make.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The article doesn't try to hide the limitations of the technology.
Okay, good.
You know, it points out that while Claude's impressive, it still makes mistakes, especially with tasks that need a lot of precision, like, you know, coding.
That's a relief to hear, actually. I was starting to think I needed to update my resume, add like AI whisper or something.
Right.
Just to stay employed.
Yeah.
But how bad are these mistakes? You know, are we talking like typos or like accidentally deleted my whole hard drive kind of errors?
Well, hopefully not that bad.
Yeah.
But there have been some real world tests.
Right.
And they show that technology still needs some work.
Uh-huh.
Like TechCrunch, they did this whole study.
Oh, okay.
Gave Claude some tasks, like booking flights, modifying reservations.
Yeah.
And it turns out it only did those right at less than half the time.
Less than half? Wow, that's not exactly a great success rate. So it sounds like we're still in the early stages of this technology, even though it feels like it's changing so fast. And, you know, that brings us to, well, the elephant in the room. If an AI is controlling your computer, clicking around, you know, accessing your files, I mean, what does that mean for safety and security? How do we know it won't just like go rogue and mess up our digital lives?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it?
Right.
And it's definitely something Anthropic is thinking about. Their argument is that releasing these agents now, even though they're not perfect, is the best way to make them safer in the long run.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they want to find the problems and fix them before these AI agents get so smart that the consequences get even more serious.
I see. So it's kind of like a controlled burn in forestry, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. A little fire now to prevent a bigger one later. But isn't there a risk that these early releases could backfire? Like, what if these AI agents do something they're not supposed to, you know, something harmful while they're still learning? seems kind of risky, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a bold strategy. And
Yeah.
not everyone agrees with it.
Okay, right.
So some people say it's irresponsible to release this kind of powerful tech, before we really understand it.
Yeah.
They're worried about all the unintended consequences. Like,
Yeah.
What if these AI agents are used for bad things?
Right.
Or, as you said, what if they make mistakes that have serious consequences?
Okay, so there are definitely two sides to this coin. On one hand, we have, incredible potential
Yeah,
for like productivity and efficiency and all that.
exactly.
But on the other, there are very real concerns about safety, security, even ethical implications. Like, is it even right to give AI this much control?
Uh-huh.
It sounds like we're at a crossroads, and the decisions we make now about AI are really going to shape the future.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to understand, not just the technology itself,
Yeah.
but the bigger picture. What are the potential benefits and the risks?
Yeah.
What are the ethical considerations?
Yeah.
And how can we make sure AI is developed and used in a way that helps everyone,
Right.
not just a few people?
And those are exactly the questions we're going to keep exploring. So stick with us as we keep unpacking this complex and crazy, fast-moving world of AI agents.
All right. So we've talked about what Claude is and how it works and the good and the bad.
Right.
But I think what's really hitting me is that this isn't just some like random tech thing.
Yeah.
It feels like AI is becoming like more and more a part of our lives,
Absolutely.
And it's a little, I don't know, a little scary, maybe.
Well, yeah, it's definitely a big change.
On the one hand, like, think of all the time we could save if AI could handle those, like, annoying tasks we all hate.
It's true. Like, the potential is huge. Imagine if AI was handling your email,
Right.
scheduling all those meetings. Ugh.
Even helping you organize that inbox that's, like, overflowing. It would free up so much time and mental energy.
Right. I mean, who wouldn't want an AI assistant to take care of all that boring stuff? But then there's that question in the back of my mind, like, what if we become so reliant on AI
Right.
that we forget how to do those things ourselves?
Exactly.
Like, do we lose some essential skills and become, too dependent on technology?
It's that classic dilemma, right?
Yeah.
Convenience versus, I guess, autonomy.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about, like, what does it even mean to be human?
Yeah.
In a world where AI can do pretty much everything, at what point does helpful, become giving up control?
And it's not just about us as individuals either. What if AI agents like Claude become, totally normal? Could that mean a lot of people lose their jobs?
It's a real concern.
And then there's the gap between people who can, use AI and those who can't.
Yeah, absolutely.
It feels like a huge societal shift, almost like something out of,
The science fiction movie.
yeah. But the thing is, it's happening now. And we need to be a part of the conversation.
Absolutely. We can't
Yeah.
just sit back and let it happen.
We need to understand what's going on and help shape how this all plays out.
And that's where our listeners come in.
Right.
We want them to think critically, engage in these discussions, be a part of shaping the future of AI.
So let's get back to Claude for a minute.
Okay.
Anthropic is saying that releasing these AI agents now, even though they're still being developed, is the safest way to do things.
Huh.
They say that, by finding and fixing problems early on, they can avoid bigger issues down the road. What do you think about that?
Well, it's certainly a bold approach,
Yeah.
and not without its risks.
Yeah.
Some experts are saying it's irresponsible,
Yeah.
to release this kind of technology before we really know what it can do.
Yeah.
They're worried about all sorts of things, like what if someone uses it for, malicious purposes?
Uh-huh.
Or, as we talked about earlier, what if it makes a mistake that has a big impact in the real world?
It's a tough call. On one hand, we want to push the boundaries of what's possible with AI,
Right.
but we also need to be responsible
Absolutely.
and make sure it's developed ethically. It's all about finding that balance.
Exactly. And that means really understanding the technology, the
Right.
good and the bad,
Yeah.
and having those open and honest conversations about how it's being developed and used.
Which brings us back to the big question. What does all this mean for, the average person?
Right.
The people who aren't AI experts but are using it more and more.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed, like it's all happening too fast.
Exactly.
But the most important thing is to stay informed, to learn, to be aware of what's going on.
Okay.
We need to understand the good and the bad, of AI.
So it's not about being an expert, but just being an informed user.
Right.
Someone who can make good choices about how they use AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we we need to ask ourselves some tough questions.
Yeah.
Are we okay with the amount of control we're giving AI? What about privacy? What are we giving up for convenience? And in the end, what kind of relationship do we want to have with this technology?
Those are some really big questions, and there's no easy answers. It feels like we're at this turning point.
Yeah.
Where the decisions we make about AI will have a huge impact on the future.
Absolutely. And maybe the most important thing is that we're having these conversations now.
Yeah.
While we still have a chance to shape how AI develops, it's not set in stone.
Right.
We're all creating this future together.
So we've talked a lot about this AI agent thing, and it's a pretty big deal. It seems like it's moving so fast.
Yeah, definitely.
We talked about what Claude is, how it works, the good and the bad. But I want to make sure, everyone listening really gets it. What does it all actually mean?
Right. And the main thing to remember is that we're all part of this whole AI thing.
Yeah.
Whether we're the ones building it or just using it to, book that flight to Hawaii.
Right.
It's becoming part of everything. And what we do now, the choices we make, are going to decide what the future looks like.
So what can people actually do? How can they be more in the loop with all this? Because it does feel like it's happening so fast.
Well, the first thing is just be curious.
Okay.
Keep learning. There's tons of stuff out there. Articles, podcasts like this one, docs, online courses, whatever. Just dive in.
And it's not just about reading stuff, right?
No, definitely not.
It's about actually thinking about it.
Yeah.
Questioning things, talking to people about it.
Right, exactly. The more we all talk about this stuff, the better we'll be able to handle it.
And don't forget, your own voice matters. Talk to your, elected officials, support groups that are pushing for responsible AI. This isn't set in stone, the future of AI.
It's something we're all making, together.
So to wrap things up, I want to leave you with a thought. If AI, like Claude, keeps getting better and better, at what point do we say, okay, I trust you to handle this part of my life? And what will that world even look like? When AI is just built into everything we do.
That's a big question. And, the line between science fiction and reality is getting blurry. The choices we make now can decide what happens.
That's all for a deep dive into AI agents and Anthropic's Claude. We hope you've learned something and, that you feel like you can be part of this whole AI conversation. Keep learning, keep questioning, keep exploring.